Welcome to Soulful Living. I'm Philip Montrose, your host, and this is a show weekly for timely solutions, keys for open-minded people like you, people who want to create a more joyful, meaningful, prosperous life. We have Jane and myself, my partner, over 3 decades of experience as authors, coaches, healers, founding directors of IHP, International Association of Holistic Practitioners, and we do have a special guest today I'm about to introduce. By the way, IHP is part of Awakenings Institute, a nonprofit organization dedicated to creating a more loving world where the unique gifts of each individual are honored and nurtured. And today we have a wonderful show about using triggers for transformation with special guest Melissa Carlberg from Wisconsin, holistic psychotherapist and life coach. And this is a great topic. We haven't really covered this on the show thus far. It's a very useful, practical one, and that's part of the Soulful Living show. Hey, welcome. Nice to see you again, Melissa.
Thanks, Phil. It's great to see you again. Sure miss seeing you and Jane these days. Such wonderful souls and great teachers.
Well, thank you. And using triggers for transformation. Now, how did you come up with that? How does that fit into your life specifically and part of your background in using triggers for transformation? I know you're going to help people get some specifics on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I certainly have personal experience as being a human being,
right?
experiencing triggers. But, you know, in my work as a therapist, most people coming to therapy come with some kind of issue or problem that's been nagging them for years, and they want it to go away. They see the problem as a nuisance that's holding them back in life and keeping them from really enjoying living life to the fullest, or living out just being comfortable with who they are and living the life that they're capable of living. And as a therapist, I get to see the whole trajectory of what's possible when we can start to work with the triggers as potential opportunities for healing, which can optimally lead us to opportunities to change, behaviors, emotions, and ways of being into, new patterns that bring people more joy and are closer to who they want to be. So I go from, helping people see what's possible, with what they're bringing, which is a lot of distress, through the healing processes that we do in therapy and coaching, being able to release the distress of some of those patterns and triggers, and find new ways of being. So it's just wonderful work. I've been a therapist for I guess a couple decades in various forms, and I love my work. So
it shows. And before I find out more about how you, in your life, how triggers have led to transformation for you personally, why don't we just define triggers a little bit more, just in case people are wondering what that word means.
Right. Yeah. So there's, I guess, a couple different types of triggers. One can be internal types, and the other maybe more external. Internal being feelings, beliefs, or even sensations, possibly memories or images, such as having a racing heart rate, when you are trying to pause and have a relaxing bath or something. All of a sudden the warmth of the bath is increasing your heart rate and you're all of a sudden starting to feel panicked. It's like, why am I feeling panicked when I'm having this experience? Or you find yourself feeling overwhelmed or irritable or angry, feeling resentful, and finding yourself fighting with your spouse or your partner. Those are really good. Those are very common ways to really identify, oh, okay, this is a recurring issue. There's probably an opportunity here for something to get looked at. So, people having experiences of panic or resentment or, even beliefs of like, well, this keeps happening in my marriage where I'm feeling rejected or not getting enough help. My needs don't matter. These are all negative beliefs too that get stuck around.
So there's beliefs that things are not going well, you're unlovable and so forth. Things don't work out. And then there's external things where things are not working out, that people are rejecting you or saying maybe objectively disapproving or negative things too.
Yes. And so those external triggers can come in the form of relationships or situations, places we are. Sometimes, people are driving, they've had trauma around accidents. Being alone is often a trigger for people. There's traumas and distresses that we experience in our, that happen in our day to day that require us to kind of do some immediate healing, but oftentimes we find ourselves in situations where these triggers are just repetitive over like a number of years. And even if we're in a different situation or place, we're feeling the same thing with, just like feeling like deja vu, we've been here before. And those are especially the times where it helps to just explore a little bit and see maybe where this has happened before in life.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it, just kind of being suggestive, evocative. And of course, this is a show about soulful living. So all this is going to be more present and living a soulful life. And so that takes me back to the question, how has your life been such that triggers have led to your personal transformation?
Well, I guess one of the great examples that has been more recent, but at the same time, it's really a shared experience with a lot of people, is just coming through a time period of immense stress. Certainly this last year, going through a pandemic, as well as other political kinds of tensions. I live in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where there were also riots happening after the shooting of the man, Jacob Blake. And I really just lived a couple blocks away from where, wow, the neighborhood burned. And I wasn't sure I was even going to talk about that one. There's somewhat like traumatic or distressful events over the last several years for me. But so, those can all interrupt our daily functioning, where we can, the nervous system sort of takes over when we're met with any kind of sense of a threat to our sense of security. Certainly for members of my community in Kenosha, the shooting itself of Jacob Blake initially, especially for people of color, was re-traumatizing and triggering. The notion that maybe my life and people with my skin color's lives don't matter as much. That's how that event was interpreted. And so there's trauma to be healed in that regard. For me personally, living close to the neighborhood that there was rioting and also other shootings, additional shootings, and buildings just blocks from where I walk with my children to school burned down. I would, be sitting up at night just for safety, just on guard, making sure that my neighborhood, my family was safe. And so I was kind of witnessing all these events in real time happening. And, weeks after this was all kind of settled down, there were still boards up on the windows of storefronts, protecting, people kind of protecting their businesses that way. Just seeing the boards painted with beautiful colors and images was also, though, a trigger for a lot of people, a feeling like, oh, are we safe in this city? So for a lot of people, that became a trigger. For me personally, I had this sort of revved up nervous system just for the next several months, because the nervous system adapts very quickly. We're human beings are animals first. Our neurobiology is designed for survival. We're the most actually adaptable species on the planet. We learn very quickly from painful events what to avoid and how to anticipate danger. And that just so quickly takes over our entire, our entire approach to the day. And literally it shuts down parts of our brain where we do executive functioning so that we can be in survival mode. And that's that fight or flight or freeze. It's that up shifting and downshifting of the nervous system to cope and adapt to stress. So we can get really, really stuck in that mode. And I found myself, waking up in the middle of the night and checking my phone to see if there were updates, and I'm just having images kind of repeat in my head of all the things that took place. So, I really, being a trauma therapist myself, knew like, okay, we've got some issues here to address. And I really tried to carve out every day to cultivate a sense of safety again in my neighborhood. I noticed that I didn't want to walk around very much. I was kind of staying in more, and this was kind of in the height of the summer and fall. So I made it a point to, come back to my deep breathing, to my exercises every day, to just feel calm and safe and regulated. And then on top of that, I had to myself go back to the therapy treatment that I do with clients to heal trauma and distress. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or EMDR, I was doing on myself. And that incorporates the body, the emotions, and the negative beliefs that all get attached to distressing experiences. And for me, it was, just kind of this wakefulness, this anxiety, body-wise. The emotions were a bit of fear, and the beliefs were, I'm not safe. I was safe in that moment, but trauma makes us believe that whatever happened during the trauma moment, that it's still happening. And the negative beliefs that get attached to that kind of fall into three different categories. One is around safety. One is around, capability. I wasn't good enough, or I'm not good enough, or powerlessness. I should have done something and I didn't, or I did something and it caused harm. So there's these three categories. Yeah. So, I find myself really probably in that safety category. And so in doing some of the reprocessing for myself, coming back to that daily relaxation, cultivating a sense of safety again, and then just going back to the memories of what happened, and doing EMDR or reprocessing, which incorporates bilateral movement, either of the eyes or auditory sounds or tapping, kind of simulates what the eyes do during REM sleep to process the distress of our days during dreaming. So I was applying that to some of those memories, and lo and behold, and I did get some help also from a therapist that also specializes in this, and she took me kind of a little bit further in than I was able to do by myself. Even though I do this, it always helps to have somebody helping along. And I was able to feel, after several weeks of doing that kind of work, that I had just more fully addressed all of the stress and the distress and the pain around those events, and feel that that distress was released sort of from my body. It felt much more distant. I could drive through the neighborhood and not feel the pangs of anxiety, not feel overwhelming grief. I did have some understandable grief that I still needed to do, but doing the trauma work allowed, freed me up to be able to grieve in a much more normal, natural way than just this kind of shut down, frozen fear response. So, so now, I'm able to, and then the snow came many months later, and now I drive through, and yesterday I was driving and through the same neighborhood, and I was just feeling like everything, the cars that had been charred from fire, the buildings that had been gutted. There was just this 16-inch blanket of thick snow that had fallen over everything. And just as I was driving around dusk, all the street lamps they just all came on at once. And I thought, okay, there's new possibility, for this neighborhood, for my community. I just feel, the community is very close to my heart, and knowing that, people experience trauma and distress every day for various reasons. And I like to be of service, to offer opportunities to heal for my community. So that's kind of how it intersects with me. And I was able to kind of get free of how those experiences held me down for quite some time.
Yeah, traumatic for a lot of people. So I want to follow up with a couple things and continue this conversation. That one is, EMDR is a very powerful healing modality, but you'd have to go to a therapist like yourself for someone to receive it. As you know, we teach EFT. It's kind of more accessible, yes, like to you, and we've taught other people and so forth.
Yes.
So one is, what people can do. That's part one. And part two,
yes,
is to put this into a soulful context. And you were doing that a moment ago when you started seeing how new life can be grown, kind of a regenerative, the phoenix from the ashes. That was, I thought, a very transformational, soulful awareness that you were bringing to it.
Yes. So even before entering into some of the reprocessing of trauma, there are many ways that we can access our internal soulful resources. And those, once we start doing that, those are transformative in and of themselves. So, certainly EFT can help process distress. It can also be used, once people, learn the basics of it, to just identify kind of where they want to be, and maybe the positive beliefs that if they're able to identify those. For instance, if I'm able to identify a negative belief, I'm not safe, even though part of me knows I am safe, the event is over. My nervous system is stuck in, I'm not safe. I know that I want to come back to knowing that I'm safe, and I can know it here, but not know it here. So when we do these you know, these skills, it helps to move it from here to here. And you can, you know, you can tap in on the points, you know, I'm safe, the event is over. And visualizing yourself and how your body feels when you are safe, tapping that visualization in. You can use just by a very simple bilateral tapping, coming back to that, using the bilateral stimulation or movement to tap in inner supportive resources. If we visualize, you know, certain people that are in our lives or who have passed that we've had that experience of safety with, or their presence somehow reminds us of a sense of safety because they're a peaceful person, we can bring them to mind, and we can, you know, kind of bring to life the qualities and the emotions that that person gives to us or has. And as we experience through a visualization of that person, we can tap that in this way, in a very simple way. We can tap it through EFT. We can tap it on our thymus gland. We can just hold a hand over our hearts and breathe in some loving breath, self-compassion, loving warmth toward ourselves brings the energy of acceptance and helps us to just process what we've been through. Just bringing the attention to ourselves, bringing the attention to our bodies, that yes, I've had this experience and this is what the experience is, versus what our nervous systems would have us do, which would be just kind of suppress and survive and muscle through. And that just comes back to bite us. It just diminishes ourselves and cuts parts of ourselves off.
Right. And this is a very wonderful therapeutic ways, EFT and other visualizations and resources, yes, positive people to help you get through trauma and stress. And taking it to that other level, which we've touched on. So sometimes people like you and all the people in Kenosha and Wisconsin there have a crossroad where there's this huge community conflict. And of course, if you look at the COVID pandemic, that's affecting country worldwide. And if you look at history, yes, just filled with war and pandemics, yes, and it's just, you know, there's a lot going on throughout history.
Right.
So stepping back for soulful living, one level is just to heal it, which is important as part of being soulful too. But the bigger picture is, what does it mean? What's it serving? Why did our soul come in to experience Kenosha and all the other people there? What is it teaching us? What is it showing us? What is the opportunity there? And it is something that just part of it is to have compassion and to become stronger and resilient and understand things. But I'm curious how you're perceiving it.
I think asking those questions that you've just asked is really essential, and it's really hard to get to the answers when we're stuck in the trauma of it. Sometimes we can by doing some of these simple techniques of connecting, you know, connecting to ourselves, connecting to our souls, you know, through prayer and meditation, these we can be led to the answers to those questions. I think that in my experience, and this is just me especially talking as a therapist because I value the healing process so much, that it's a clearing, you know, these types of this type of healing work is clearing the path for us to come to the answers to those questions. Of course, we have to ask those questions often to open ourselves to the answers, but I know oftentimes if we're crowded out by the negative and the fear, we're just not going to be as open to it. And I know that, for instance, in EMDR, the process of clearing naturally allows the body and the nervous system, it's like priming the pump. It's now available to, people naturally come to a more neutral understanding, but even more so they come to a positive interpretation of the events versus the negative interpretation, which is the world is falling apart or something catastrophic, or I'm not safe and I can't trust anybody anymore because, people do bad things. So it's very easy to get stuck there without doing the healing work. But once you're doing the healing work, it just opens up all the channels again to then be in a place. And of course, with the EMDR, we also install positive beliefs that is sort of coming from a soulful place. You identify as that's what I most need or want. Such as, this is like, I'm not only safe, but I'm a part of something larger, something new can come out of this. And certainly, I feel able to embrace that with all of the, offering healing work to this community, but also just being a part of the new developments and that are going on in the communities.
Very good. I'm here with Melissa Karlberg, holistic psychotherapist and life coach, using triggers for transformation and soulful living. That's our topic. So what's an example maybe coming in mind? Maybe you help someone get the big picture and the more soulful insights.
Let's see. Maybe you can rephrase the question so I can make sure I answer it correctly.
Yeah, okay. I'm just thinking, you help many people. What might be an example of someone you helped to get like a bigger, more soulful understanding of something tragic that they had to work through?
Well, I guess my husband is another example. He said it was okay to kind of share his sure. Story too as an example, so it's not, to keep confidentiality for all of my clients and patients, which is so important. But it's a good example, I think, for how we work together. He supports me, I support him, so it's okay that I share, I think. But for a while, he was faced with a to-do list in his workplace that was about 150 items long. And he was waking up early in the morning, 4 o'clock, kind of in a panic, and thinking, I gotta get started. I'm having these racing thoughts, right? Like his brain is already ready to go, working overtime to try to fit in all of these items, and thinking, how am I going to fit in all of this? There's too much to do and not enough time. So on the outset, lots of people have that problem, and coming to a counselor or coach or therapist, they wonder, like, how can I get rid of this? Like racing thoughts and panic, like that's not pleasant. Help me get rid of this. And certainly that's a great, that's a legitimate question, and we do help people get rid of those things. People might be coming with those symptoms also wondering, do I need to get better at stress management? Do I need to learn how to be more assertive with my boss, take some things off my plate? Do I need to learn to say no, and develop some boundaries? And absolutely, yes. Those are skills that are really important and helpful for us to improve our lives and set parameters for our lives to just be healthier and happier. But at some point too, you know, you might do those things or change jobs and you might still be like running up against the same problems, might still be waking up with racing thoughts or still having stress looking at a to-do list. You know, and that's where then, you know, my husband and I, as we talked, because this has been going on for 6 months or more for him, you know, he'd made some nice changes. He was in good communication with his coworkers and boss, and so I just, you know, started asking him, you know, what are you afraid of? You know, what's underneath sort of this race to this pressure to get everything completed and done. And he's able to identify, you know, and having, you know, those kind of talks together, that's like, okay, you know, I think that this is all on me. If I don't do this, something bad is going to happen if I don't deliver. Like, yeah, maybe I'll get fired, or, you know, maybe I'll, you know, we'll be homeless and my marriage will get rocky, you know, lots of catastrophic things. But underneath that, it's like, where does that come from? So we can do some healing work around what he's experiencing now, the fear, and you know, that got him to a certain point. But you know, once we can't continue talking, he was able to kind of go back to all these other kind of touchstone experiences through his life where things were kind of on him, where it was a little bit like, you know, mistakes were made, things happened, and it was undesirable. And even going further back, family of origin is where, you know, a lot of patterns get created for people through negative interactions with caregivers or just normal stressful family events that deliver some kind of implicit message, some negative messaging like, this is all on me, I have to fix this, or something bad is going to happen, or I'm not good enough, or I'm unsafe, going back to those three categories of negative beliefs. So he was able to do you know, through tapping and some bilateral movement himself, EMDR, and just becoming aware first and foremost that these things have some root causes, and going back to those root causes is okay. It's safe to do that healing work around that. And he was able to release those patterns and symptoms. He's not having panic anymore. He's, you know, he's able to step into his work as his life calling in a much, you know, he's freed up his energy to be able to do that work and and do it with lightness and joy, and thinking much more clearly and creatively. You know, we're just kind of at our best selves when we can free up all those parts.
Right. So just to review what I'm hearing you say with your husband's example there, first of all, is to recognize the pattern. Something's not working. Let's not keep doing the same thing that's not working, which is what it seems to be our pattern, which is interesting because we do resist things that bother us. Even if you're very conscious and very soulful and very aware, you will resist it.
Yes.
That's going to be an automatic kind of a default reflexive thing, right?
Right.
But the next step is what we're talking about, to go beyond that. Like, this isn't working. In your husband's case, very common, rushed. What's that all about? What's going on? So then you need some tools, some maybe healing tools, EFT tapping or other things, or maybe get support from someone, right? Yeah. Do maybe some healing meditations if you have that in your too, to kind of get a big picture of what's this all about? How is it serving me? How is it teaching me? Where is it taking me? Break the momentum. And that was a good example from your husband there.
Yes, and it's continued work.
Yeah,
We
it's a
continue
journey.
to strengthen. Yes, it is, and we can continue to strengthen and empower us and empower ourselves through that. Once we clear the stuff, just we can be freer, but we can also now, put that energy toward growing stronger and becoming even more impassioned and joyful.
You bet. Anything else you want to also add about going from triggers to transformation?
I don't think so, except, there's just so many wonderful ways we can do that work, whether it's through EFT or visualization, kind of, I know you and Jane talk about hypnosis a bit, sometimes just being in a relaxed, more theta mind state.
Quiet brainwaves, theta, quiet brainwaves, deeper brainwaves.
Right. We can just access so many powerful resources within us through visualization, and or do some inner child work, IFS, which is internal family systems, the Richard Schwartz, which you mentioned, looking at ourselves as there's various parts of ourselves that are take on different roles and may be triggered in different ways. We can get those parts in communication with each other, do some healing work that way. Reframing and anchoring. There's many wonderful ways to do that.
Find a tool, get a tool, find support, get support to help you to go from the trigger to transformation.
Absolutely.
So how do people find out about you or connect with you if they want to go further with you you have a personal practice and help people? Do you help people long distance too?
As far as therapy goes, right now being licensed in the state of Wisconsin and soon to be in the state of Illinois, I can provide therapy and counseling to residents of Wisconsin and soon Illinois. If it's more like life coaching and we're not doing traditional therapy, then I can serve people outside of those two states. But my business therapy practice is mindbodyhealingpsychotherapy.com.
Let me type that in the mind body. What was the rest? Healing
psychotherapy.
You got it all there.
.com.
Mindbodyhealingpsychotherapy.com.
Yes.
For Melissa's website. That's how they can contact you.
That's how you can contact me, through email and phone listed on the website. Facebook page as well, Mind Body Healing Psychotherapy LLC.
Gotcha. Okay, that's if you're drawn to someone like Melissa, a wonderful, soulful healer, holistic psychotherapist, and life coach, and she took some training with us, so we know we can vouch for her to know her well. She's a deep, heart-centered person, very effective. So any final thoughts or comments on going from triggers to transformation, Melissa?
We have nothing to fear but the fear itself, I guess. To quote, who was that?
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Thank you. Yes. Just many opportunities when we allow ourselves to go to the places. So
you bet.
Happy to accompany people on that journey.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. That was great. So you've been listening to Soulful Living with Philip Montrose, my special guest, Melissa Karlberg, and going from using triggers for transformation. If you enjoyed this show, please invite friends, share it with other people, use these strategies, these soulful strategies like we shared today. And our website, extensive website, gettingthrough.org/holistic, gettingthrough.org/holistic. A lot of downloads there, trainings, books, and much, much more. And we value your support. Tuition for courses and other purchases help our mission at Awakenings Institute, our nonprofit organization, to create a more loving world. So have a wonderful week, and thanks so much, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Philip. It was so nice to talk with you again.
Great being with you on Soulful Living.